Yesterday, Donald Trump told a reporter he's close to ordering the biggest attack on Iran yet, bigger than the one that already happened 5 months ago. And almost everyone covering that quote missed the one word buried in his statement that actually explains why this war restarted in the first place. It's not Iran. It's not nukes. It's one word: Hormuz. Stick with me, because once you understand what actually broke down here, the last 2 weeks of bombing make a lot more sense. And if you want the version of this story that isn't compressed into 90 seconds on cable news, hit subscribe, because I'm going to be tracking this one closely. Let's get into it. So here's what's public right now. President Trump told Axios on Thursday that he's seriously considering, quote, a massive attack, bigger than ever before, on Iran. His words. He said, "I am close to making a decision. We are all set for it." Then he said something colder. They haven't received enough ain't yet. Pause. This comes after 13, now 14, straight nights of U.S. airstrikes on Iranian targets. Iran has been hitting back too. Drone strikes on U.S.-linked bases in Kuwait and Jordan. Explosions along the Strait of Hormuz. The UN Secretary General told the Security Council this week that the Middle East is, in his words, teetering on the edge of the unimaginable. Size: oil just crossed $100 a barrel. The UK pulled diplomatic staff out of Iran. Qatar Airways suspended flights to 3 different countries. This is not a minor skirmish anymore. Now let's rewind, because this is where it gets interesting. This war didn't start last week. Back in February, the US and Israel launched a joint operation called Epic Fury. Strikes hit Iran hard, reportedly took out the supreme leader within days. Everyone assumed that was the war. It lasted weeks. A ceasefire got signed, a memorandum of understanding between Washington and Tehran, and for a while, it held. Then, last month, that ceasefire fell apart. And here's the detail almost nobody is actually explaining. It didn't collapse because of some dramatic new attack. It collapsed over a disagreement about who controls the Strait of Hormuz. Think about that for a second. One of the most fragile ceasefires of the year didn't break because of ideology or a surprise strike. It broke over a shipping lane dispute, a 21-mile wide stretch of water that a fifth of the world's oil passes through every single day. So once that agreement unraveled, both sides went right back to hitting each other. The US resumed strikes. Iran resumed retaliation, this time going after American-linked assets in Kuwait and Jordan, hitting warehouses, fuel tankers, and ammunition depot. Trump then made a specific threat this week. He said the U.S. would bomb an Iranian bridge or power plant every single time Iran fires at a vessel in the strait. That's a new rule of engagement. Not, we'll respond eventually. Every single shot, an automatic bombing of Iranian infrastructure. That's the policy right now, as we're recording this. And separately, this week, the Wall Street Journal reported something that barely made headlines. Bahrain and Kuwait secretly carried out their own airstrikes on Iranian drone and missile depots last month, quietly. 2 Gulf states that usually try to stay out of direct confrontation with Iran already pulled into this fight before Trump's newest threat even came out. Let's talk about what a massive attack, bigger than ever before, would actually mean, because the phrase is vague on purpose. The original Epic Fury operation involved multiple carrier strike groups, stealth bombers, special operations units, essentially the full weight of U.S. Central Command. If Trump is saying the next one would be bigger than that, we're talking about a strike that goes well beyond degrading a few missile sites. Analysts reading his comments think this signals targeting Iran's remaining military infrastructure at a scale meant to end its ability to threaten shipping in the Gulf entirely, not just punish it. Here's the part that caught my attention, though. In the same breath, Trump said Israel would join in 2 minutes if I asked them to, but that the U.S. doesn't need anybody. He's deliberately keeping Israel out of the frame publicly, while making sure everyone knows Israel is on standby. That's not an accident. That's leverage. It tells Tehran, this can get much bigger, much faster, whenever Washington decides. And remember, this war has already cost the U.S. close to $110 billion. The Pentagon is now asking Congress for another $67 billion. So every time you hear bigger than ever before, you should also be hearing the price tag attached to it, because someone has to pay for it, And right now, that's the American taxpayer. Here's where this gets politically messy. The U.S. House of Representatives has now voted, again, to try to limit Trump's ability to wage war in Iran without congressional approval. Twice. That's not one-party grandstanding. That's a signal that support for open-ended war is cracking, even among people who backed the original operation back in February. At the same time, there's a genuinely strange thread developing. Iran's interior minister has visited Islamabad twice in 10 days for what Reuters describes as exploratory peace talks, with Pakistan trying to help restart negotiations. So you've got Trump publicly threatening the biggest strike yet, while quietly, through a third country, there's an attempt to talk this down. Those two things are happening at the exact same time. That tension, threat and diplomacy running in parallel, that's usually what a government does right before either a breakthrough or an explosion. Historically, it can go either way. Now, to be fair to the administration's position here, officials would argue that Iran, not the U.S., broke the ceasefire first by disputing control of Hormuz and resuming attacks on Gulf shipping and U.S.-linked bases. From that view, bigger than ever before isn't reckless escalation, it's deterrence, making the cost of continued attacks on shipping so high that Iran has no choice but to stop. There's also a fair argument that ambiguity is doing real work here. Trump not committing to a specific date or scale might be intentional pressure, not indecision. On the other hand, critics, including members of Trump's own party who backed those war powers votes, argue that bigger than ever before, with no clear endpoint, is exactly how conflicts spiral past the point anyone can control. Once you're bombing infrastructure automatically every time a ship gets fired at, you've essentially handed the timeline of the war over to whoever pulls the trigger on the Iranian side next. That's not really a plan, that's a tripwire. Here's why this matters if you're in the US, the UK, Australia, or anywhere in Europe, even if you've never thought twice about the Strait of Hormuz. About a fifth of the world's oil moves through that 21-mile channel. Every time this escalates, it's not an abstract headline. It shows up at your gas pump, in shipping costs, in inflation numbers, in flight prices. Qatar Airways already canceling routes is just the first visible ripple. And there's a deeper pattern here too. The UN Secretary General didn't say, "There's tension in the Middle East." He said the region is teetering on the edge of the unimaginable, and that one crisis feeds another. That's diplomatic language for, this isn't contained anymore. Kuwait, Jordan, Bahrain, all pulled in. Saudi shipping getting hit by Houthi forces linked to Iran. This is no longer a two-country conflict. It's becoming a regional one, with the U.S., again, in the middle of it, footing a growing bill with no clear exit plan. So where does this actually go? I don't know. And honestly, I don't think Trump knows yet either. That's basically what "I'm close to a decision" means. He's still deciding. What I do know is that the last time a ceasefire here broke down, it wasn't over some huge ideological flashpoint. It was over control of a shipping lane. That should tell you something about how fragile all of this actually is, and how fast close to a decision can turn into a decision that's already been made for everyone. I'll be watching whether that decision comes this week or gets talked back from the edge through those quiet talks in Islamabad. Either way, I don't think we're done hearing about this. If you want to know the moment it moves, subscribe and turn on notifications, because when this breaks, it's going to break fast.